The alarm screamed through the small mining ship. Dae-hyun grabbed the console as red lights flashed across every screen. His crew of 5 had been surveying asteroids in the Kuiper Belt for 3 months. Nothing exciting ever happened out here, until now. "What is that?" whispered Ji-won, staring at her screen. The energy readings made no sense. Something massive was buried in the rogue planetoid ahead of them. Dae-hyun studied the scans. His hands shook slightly. In 20 years of space mining, he had never seen anything like this. The object was huge, easily 2 kilometers long. It was made of materials that their sensors could barely identify. And it was old. Very old. "We need to check this out," he said quietly. The crew agreed. They maneuvered their small ship closer to the planetoid. As they approached, their lights revealed something impossible. A ship, an alien ship. Half of it was buried in ice and rock, but the visible parts showed technology far beyond anything humans had built. The hull was smooth and dark, covered in strange symbols that seemed to shift in the light. Parts of it were damaged, torn open by what looked like weapons fire. Something had attacked this ship long ago. Ji-won was their technology specialist. She suited up first. "I'm going in," she announced. Dae-hyun wanted to stop her, but he knew she was right. They needed someone who understood technology, even alien technology. 3 of them went across on tethers: Dae-hyun, Ji-won, and their pilot Bong-soo. They entered through a massive tear in the hull. Inside, their helmet lights revealed wonders and horrors. The corridors were huge, built for creatures much larger than humans. Ice covered everything, but underneath they could see walls that glowed faintly with their own light. Symbols covered every surface. Some rooms contained crystalline structures that hummed with faint energy even after all this time. Then they found the crew. The aliens were dead, frozen in the ice. They were tall, maybe 3 meters high. Their bodies were insect-like with 4 arms and large heads. Some of them had died at their stations. Others looked like they had been trying to reach escape pods. "What killed them?" Bong-soo asked. Dae-hyun pointed to the blast damage. Something attacked them. Something powerful. Ji-won worked quickly. She found data cores, crystalline devices that still pulsed with faint light. She found what looked like navigation equipment. Most importantly, she found a central computer system that was still partially functional. "This is incredible," she breathed. "This technology is thousands of years ahead of ours, maybe more." They spent 6 hours exploring. They took thousands of pictures and scans. They carefully removed 3 data cores and several pieces of equipment. When they returned to their ship, they faced a difficult choice. Dae-hyun sat in the captain's chair, thinking. By law, they had to report this to the United Earth Authority immediately. But he had seen how governments worked. This discovery would cause chaos. Nations would fight over it. Corporations would try to steal it. The technology might be locked away for decades while politicians argued. He made a decision. He would report it as required. But first, he sent encrypted data files to someone he trusted. Hyun-soo was a brilliant physicist on Earth. She was also someone who believed knowledge should be shared, not hoarded. "Send everything to Hyun-soo," he told his communications officer. "Use the private channel, then send the official report to Earth Authority." The message reached Earth 6 hours later. The response was immediate and chaotic. The United Earth Authority demanded exclusive access. The Asian Coalition, where Dae-hyun held citizenship, claimed the discovery belonged to them since he was their citizen. The European Federation argued that the Kuiper Belt was international territory. 3 major corporations offered Dae-hyun enormous bribes for the coordinates. Within 2 days, ships were racing toward their position from every direction. Military vessels, corporate exploration ships, and scientific research vessels all converged on the Kuiper Belt. Some of them were armed. Dae-hyun and his crew waited nervously. They had moved their ship away from the alien wreck, but they stayed close enough to monitor it. They watched as the first military ships arrived and established a perimeter. On Earth, Hyun-soo received the encrypted files. She worked in a small laboratory in Seoul. When she opened the data, her hands trembled. She understood immediately what this meant for humanity. She started with the navigation data. It took her 3 days to decode enough to understand the basics. What she learned made her blood run cold. The alien ship had not traveled between stars. It had traveled between galaxies. Its navigation logs showed journeys spanning millions of light years. Earth appeared in these logs, marked with a special designation in the alien language. Using pattern recognition software, Hyun-soo began translating. One phrase appeared repeatedly next to Earth's coordinates. After hours of work, she decoded it. Quarantine zone. The aliens had marked Earth's entire region of space as a quarantine zone. They had deliberately avoided this area. Something had made them afraid to come here. Or perhaps they were protecting something. Protecting Earth. Hyun-soo sat back in her chair. Around the world, nations were arguing about who owned the alien ship. They were fighting over the technology. But none of them knew the truth yet. The aliens had kept humanity hidden. They had marked human space as forbidden. The question was simple and terrifying. What were they hiding humanity from? She encrypted her findings and sent them to Dae-hyun. Then she made copies and hid them in secure locations. Whatever happened next, this information could not be lost. In orbit around Earth, representatives from 40 nations gathered for an emergency meeting. After 3 weeks of intense negotiation, they reached an agreement. They would form the Stellar Compact, a joint organization to study the alien ship. But the agreement was fragile. Everyone knew that whoever controlled this technology would control the future. Dae-hyun watched the political ships arrive at the alien wreck. He wondered if humanity was ready for what they had found. The alien ship held secrets that could change everything, but it also held warnings. As crews began the careful work of excavating the wreck, Dae-hyun thought about the quarantine zone designation. The aliens had hidden humanity away for a reason. Now that hiding place had been discovered. Whatever was out there in the dark, humanity would soon learn about it, whether they were ready or not. 5 years had passed since the discovery. The alien ship now floated in a hidden facility deep in the asteroid belt. Thousands of scientists from every nation worked together in shifts. They called the ship the Ark of Dawn. Hyun-soo led the propulsion research team. She had aged quickly during these years. The work was hard and the pressure was constant. Every day brought new discoveries and new questions. Around her, the best minds of humanity struggled to understand technology that seemed almost magical. Young-ho worked in the weapons division. He was a military engineer, practical and focused. He spent his days studying the defensive systems of the alien ship. The weapons were unlike anything humans had built. They bent space and focused energy in ways that seemed impossible. Mi-sun was the youngest member of the core team. She worked with the ship's computer systems. The aliens had used quantum computing, but in ways that went far beyond human understanding. Their computers seemed to think rather than simply calculate. Tae-yang studied the biological aspects. The aliens had used biotechnology extensively. They had modified their own bodies and created organic machines. Some of the ship's systems were part living tissue, part crystal, part metal. All of it worked together seamlessly. The first major breakthrough came in the propulsion lab. Hyun-soo finally understood how the faster-than-light drive worked. It did not move the ship through space. Instead, it folded space itself, bringing the destination closer. The ship stepped between the folds. "We can build this," she announced to the Stellar Compact leadership. "It will take time and resources, but we understand the principles now." The second breakthrough came from Young-ho. The alien weapons did not simply destroy targets. They could disrupt matter at a quantum level, literally pulling things apart atom by atom. He was both excited and terrified by the implications. But it was Mi-sun who made the most disturbing discovery. She had been trying to interface with the alien computer core for months. The system was still partially functional, running on power reserves that should have died millennia ago. Finally, she found a way to connect her neural interface directly to the alien system. The moment of connection was overwhelming. Data flooded her mind. Images, sounds, emotions that were not human. She saw the aliens in their final moments. She felt their terror. The aliens called themselves the Valanthi. They had built a civilization spanning thousands of worlds across multiple galaxies. They had existed for millions of years, and something had destroyed them. Mi-sun watched through the recorded memories. The enemy came without warning. They appeared at the edges of Valanthi space in ships that looked organic, like vast creatures of flesh and metal combined. The Valanthi called them the Harvesters. The war was short and brutal. The Harvesters did not negotiate. They did not communicate. They simply consumed everything. Planets were stripped of all life and resources. Entire star systems went dark. The Valanthi fled in every direction, but the Harvesters followed. The Ark of Dawn was one of the last ships to escape. Its crew had been running for decades. They had hidden in the quarantine zone, hoping the Harvesters would not follow. But the ship had been damaged in a final battle. The crew had died slowly as their systems failed. Before the last of them died, they had set up the quarantine designation. They had marked Earth's region of space as protected, hoping that at least one intelligent species might survive. They had hidden humanity away like a precious seed, hoping it might grow after the Harvesters moved on. Mi-sun disconnected from the computer. She was shaking. Tears ran down her face. When she could finally speak, she told the others what she had seen. The leadership of the Stellar Compact faced a terrible decision. The Valanthi had hidden humanity to protect them. But Earth was dying. Resources were running out. Humanity needed to expand to the stars or face extinction on their homeworld. Admiral Seok-jin was a practical man. He had served in 3 wars and understood difficult choices. "We have no choice," he said during the emergency council meeting. "Even if we wanted to stay hidden, Earth cannot support us much longer. We must expand to space. We will build a fleet and establish colonies. If the Harvesters come, at least we will have a chance to fight." Others argued. Some said they should hide better, dig deeper into Earth. Some said they should search for other Valanthi survivors. But in the end, they agreed with Seok-jin. Humanity would go to the stars. The Stellar Compact poured resources into the project. Factories in orbit and on the moon worked around the clock. Using the alien quantum manufacturing technology, they could create materials and parts that were previously impossible. 3 years after the decision, the first human starship was ready. They called it the UESS Horizon. It was smaller than the Ark of Dawn, but built with the same principles. Hyun-soo served as chief engineer. The maiden voyage was planned carefully. They would jump to Proxima Centauri, survey the system, and return. The journey would prove that humans could use the faster-than-light drive safely. Hyun-soo stood on the bridge as they prepared for the first jump. Her hands were steady on the controls, but her heart raced. They were about to do something no human had ever done. They were about to step between the folds of space. "Engaging drive," she announced. Reality twisted. For a moment, that felt like forever and no time at all. The ship existed in a place that was not a place. Then they were at Proxima Centauri, 4 light-years from Earth. The journey had taken 3 minutes. The crew cheered. They spent 2 weeks surveying the system, finding planets that could potentially support life. Then they jumped home. Total mission time, 3 weeks. A journey that would have taken conventional drives over 4 years. Earth celebrated. Humanity had taken its first real step to the stars. Plans were made for colony ships and exploration vessels. The future seemed bright. But Young-ho was worried. He had continued studying the Volanthi weapon systems and the records of their battles with the Harvesters. He found detailed scans of Harvester technology. What he learned kept him awake at night. The Harvesters were not just machines. They were not just biological creatures. They were something in between, something that could adapt and evolve. Their ships could repair themselves by consuming matter around them. They could learn from each battle and change their tactics. Worse, they appeared to be self-replicating. One harvester ship could create more by harvesting resources from planets and asteroids. Their numbers could grow exponentially. Young Ho presented his findings to Admiral Seok Jin. "If they come here, we need to be ready," he said. "The Volanthi had thousands of worlds and millions of years of advancement. The Harvesters still destroyed them. We need to assume that we cannot win a direct war." Seok Jin studied the data. "Then what do you suggest? We expand as fast as possible. We spread humanity across as many worlds as we can. We make sure that no single attack can destroy us all, and we keep searching for a weakness. There has to be something. The Harvesters can be beaten. We just need to find out how." The Stellar Compact agreed. The expansion program was accelerated. Within 2 years, the first colony ships were ready to launch. Humanity would spread to the stars, not as conquerors, but as survivors. Hyun-Soo watched the colony ships depart from her lab. She thought about the Volanthi and their final, desperate flight. She thought about Earth, hidden away in its quarantine zone. That protection was ending. Humanity was stepping out of hiding. Whatever consequences came from that choice, they would face them together. For better or worse, humanity's future was now among the stars. 20 years had changed everything. Jin Seo stood on the bridge of her exploration ship, the Pathfinder, and marveled at what humanity had built. She was Dae-hyun's daughter, born just before he found the alien wreck. Now she was 30 years old and commanded one of humanity's fastest ships. Through the view screen, she could see the jump gate network. Massive rings of metal and energy floated in space, connecting 53 colony worlds. Humanity's population had exploded to over 30 billion people spread across dozens of star systems. The Stellar Compact had become the Terran Collective. It was no longer just an alliance, but a true civilization spanning the stars. Humanity had changed in these years. Neural interfaces were common now, allowing people to connect directly with computers. Medical advances from Volanthi technology meant people could live for over 150 years. Genetic modifications helped humans survive on different worlds. Some colonies had people with enhanced lungs for thin atmospheres. Others had modifications for high gravity or intense radiation. Humanity was adapting to space in ways that would have seemed like science fiction just 20 years ago. Jin Seo's mission was to explore new star systems and search for habitable worlds. Her crew of 40 included scientists, engineers, and military personnel. They jumped from system to system, mapping and surveying. It was during one of these surveys that they found something unexpected. The planet was beautiful, covered in forests and oceans, but it was not empty. "I'm detecting settlements," said the sensor officer. "Primitive structures, life signs. Captain, there are people down there." Jin Seo felt her heart race. They had found aliens, living aliens. The creatures were bird-like, with feathers and wings. They walked on 2 legs and had developed basic tools. The Pathfinder's scans showed they had agriculture and simple villages. They were intelligent but still in an early stage of development. Jin Seo named the planet Haven and the creatures Kellis. She faced a difficult question. What should humanity do? She sent a message back to the Terran Collective leadership. The response took 2 days to arrive because of the distance. When it came, it sparked a massive debate across human space. Kyung-min was a political leader in the collective. He had risen to power by arguing for what he called the protection mandate. His speech was broadcast to billions of humans. "We have a responsibility," he said. "The Volanthi protected us. They hid us away so we could survive. Now we have found another young species. We must protect them as we were protected. This is our duty as the more advanced civilization. Others disagreed. Some argued that humanity should not interfere with the Kellys at all. Let them develop naturally. Others said humans should only observe, not interact. The debate continued for months. Meanwhile, Jin Seo kept her ship in orbit around Haven, watching the Kellys from a distance. She made sure they stayed hidden, using stealth technology to avoid detection. While this debate happened, another team made a discovery that changed everything. Wanshik was an archaeologist exploring old Valanthe colony worlds. On a planet called Remembrance, he found ruins that were older than the Valanthe themselves. The ruins showed evidence of 16 different alien civilizations. All of them were extinct. All of them had been destroyed in similar ways. Their worlds were stripped bare, their cities crushed, their people gone. Wanshik studied the ruins for months. He found records carved in stone, data preserved in crystals, even genetic material preserved in ancient vaults. The story they told was horrifying. The harvesters were not new. They had existed for millions of years, perhaps longer. They appeared in cycles, consuming civilizations and then vanishing for thousands of years. They were like a cosmic plague that returned again and again. The pattern was clear. The harvesters would appear, destroy everything in a region of space, and then disappear. They seemed to go dormant, perhaps rebuilding their numbers or waiting for some unknown trigger. Then they would wake and harvest again. Wanshik calculated the cycles. The last harvester wave had ended approximately 50,000 years ago. If the pattern held, they were due to return soon. He sent his findings to the collective leadership immediately. The news spread panic through human space. They had hoped the harvesters were gone, destroyed, or moved on to other galaxies. But the evidence was clear. They were part of a cycle that had repeated for millions of years. Admiral Seok Jin, now old and gray, studied the data. "How long do we have?" he asked. "Unknown," Wanshik replied. "The cycles are not precise. They could come tomorrow or in 100 years. But they will come." As if in answer to his words, strange things began happening at the edge of human space. Automated probes stopped sending signals. Remote stations reported unusual readings before going silent. A mining colony called Outpost Kepler sent a distress call about strange biological growths consuming their equipment. Then all contact was lost. The collective sent a survey ship to investigate. The ship, called the Surveyor, jumped to the Kepler system with a crew of 200. They found the colony abandoned. The biological growths were everywhere, spreading across buildings and equipment like a living carpet. The captain of the Surveyor ordered an immediate retreat, but as they prepared to jump away, something appeared. The sensors went wild as massive objects emerged from faster-than-light travel. They were ships, but unlike any ships humans had built. They looked organic, like vast creatures of flesh and metal combined. They pulsed with unnatural light and seemed to twist reality around them. The Surveyor's final transmission was brief and terrified. "They're here! The harvesters are here! They're—" The transmission cut off. Back at the collective headquarters, Sujin was a cyber warfare specialist. She had been monitoring the deep space network. When she analyzed the Surveyor's final transmission, her blood ran cold. The footage showed the harvester ships clearly. They were enormous, each one larger than a human city. They moved in ways that should not be possible, seeming to exist in multiple places at once, and they were coming deeper into human space. She delivered her assessment to the military council. "The harvesters are awake. They're not exploring or scouting. They're hunting. And based on their trajectory, they're moving toward Earth." Panic spread through the collective. After 20 years of peace and growth, humanity faced an enemy that had destroyed civilizations far more advanced than them. The Valanthe, with their millions of years of history, had fallen. What chance did humanity have? But humans had something the Valanthe had not: They had spread across 53 worlds in just 20 years. They had adapted and evolved faster than any species the harvesters had encountered before, and they had learned from the Valanthi's mistakes. Kyungmin addressed the collective again. His voice was steady despite the fear everyone felt. The harvesters are coming. We cannot hide anymore. Our protection is ending. But we are not the same humans who cowered on a dying Earth 20 years ago. We have become something new. We have spread to the stars. We have the technology of the Valanthi and the determination of survivors. We will not go quietly into extinction. The Terran collective mobilized for war. Every world, every station, every ship prepared for what was coming. Factories began producing warships at maximum capacity. Scientists worked to weaponize every piece of Valanthi technology they had. On Haven, Jin Seo made her decision about the Kellys. She would not abandon them. If the harvesters came, young species like the Kellys would be helpless. Humanity would protect them, as the Valanthi had protected humanity. She broadcast a message to the Kellys, making first contact. Their reaction was wonder rather than fear. To them, humans arriving from the sky seemed like a miracle. Jin Seo promised them protection. She did not know if humanity could keep that promise. But she would try. They all would try. The expansion era was ending. The war was beginning. Humanity stood at a crossroads, facing an enemy that had harvested galaxies. But they would not face it alone, and they would not face it unprepared. In the darkness between stars, the harvesters came closer, and humanity prepared to show them why protecting Earth had been wise. Some species do not go quietly. Some species fight back. The Terran collective became a machine of war. Every resource, every factory, every mind focused on a single goal: survival. Fleet Marshal Dong Hyun coordinated the massive military effort from Command Center on Earth. He was a younger man, chosen for his brilliant tactical mind and his ability to see the bigger picture. Around him, screens showed all 53 colony worlds. Each one was becoming a fortress. Defensive platforms ringed every planet. Shipyards worked day and night building warships. Millions of people trained for combat, both in space and on the ground. Hei Wan had been Hyun Su's student. Now she led the Emergency Weapons Development Program. She was pushing Valanthi technology to its limits, trying to find ways to hurt the harvesters. Her team worked in a secret facility in the asteroid belt, testing weapons that could tear apart reality itself. On Earth, Kyungmin managed the civilian side of the war effort. Evacuation plans were prepared for every colony world. Supply lines were established. Food production was increased. He knew that wars were not just fought with weapons, but with logistics and planning. Admiral Ji Young commanded the primary battle fleet. She was Seok Jin's chosen successor, a woman who had spent her entire life in space. She understood naval warfare better than anyone alive. Under her command, 2,000 warships trained for the coming battle. In her research lab, Min Kyung searched desperately through Valanthi records. There had to be something, some weakness in the harvesters that could be exploited. The Valanthi had fought them for decades before falling. They must have learned something. Humanity had advantages. Their industrial capacity was spread across dozens of systems. If one world fell, others could continue building. The quantum manufacturing technology let them produce ships and weapons quickly. The neural networks connected billions of minds, allowing for coordinated defense across vast distances. But would it be enough? 18 months after the Surveyor was lost, humanity had built its war machine. The defensive network called Sentinel was complete, spanning 30 light years. Early warning probes watched for any sign of harvester movement. Battle fleets were positioned at key points throughout human space. Then the harvesters struck. They hit the colony of New Hanseong, a world on the outer edge of human territory. The attack came without warning. Harvester ships emerged from faster-than-light travel directly in orbit around the planet. Captain Jae-hoon commanded the defense fleet stationed at New Hanseong. He had 60 warships under his command. When the harvesters appeared, he had only seconds to react. "All ships, battle formation," he ordered. "Protect the planet. Do not let them reach the surface." The battle that followed was brutal and confusing. Human weapons struck the harvester ships and they worked. The ships took damage, but then something horrifying happened. The damaged sections began to regenerate. Living tissue grew over the wounds. Metal reformed. Within minutes, the damaged ships were whole again. Worse, when human missiles destroyed a harvester ship completely, the debris did not drift away. Instead, it broke into smaller pieces that moved independently. Each piece was a new, smaller harvester unit. Destroying one ship created dozens of smaller threats. Jae-hoon realized they could not win this battle conventionally. He made a desperate decision. New Hanseong had a jump gate, part of the network connecting human worlds. The gates used massive amounts of energy to fold space. "Overload the gate," he ordered his engineers. "Create a spatial disruption large enough to destroy the harvester fleet." "Sir, that will destroy the gate. We'll be cut off from the rest of the collective." "Do it anyway. If we don't stop them here, they'll reach the planet." The engineers worked frantically. The jump gate began to pulse with unstable energy. Jae-hoon ordered all civilian ships to evacuate through the gate before it exploded. Millions of people fled New Hanseong in a desperate stream of ships. When the gate overloaded, the explosion was massive. Space itself seemed to tear open. The harvester ships were caught in the disruption, pulled apart by forces they could not regenerate from. The fleet was destroyed. But the cost was terrible. Jae-hoon's entire defense fleet was lost. 4 million colonists could not evacuate in time. And New Hanseong was now isolated, cut off from the jump gate network. The survivors would have to survive alone until help could reach them by slower means. Jae-hoon's final transmission was calm. "We stopped them here. Don't let it be for nothing. Learn from this. Adapt. Survive." Then his ship was consumed by the spatial disruption. The Terran collective analyzed every second of the battle. The harvesters could be hurt. They could even be destroyed. But they adapted quickly. They learned from each engagement. Conventional weapons would not be enough. Haewon's team studied the data and came to a grim conclusion. The harvesters were not just attacking randomly. They were moving in a pattern, systematically advancing toward Earth. Somehow, they knew where humanity had originated. More battles followed. The harvesters attacked at 3 different points, testing human defenses. Each time, human forces held them back, but at terrible cost. 17 colony worlds now lay in the war zone. Dong-hyun received the casualty reports daily. After 6 months of warfare, 300 million humans were dead or missing. Entire fleets had been lost. Dozens of colony stations were destroyed. Meanwhile, Won-shik continued exploring old Velanthi ruins. In a hidden bunker on a dead world, he found something incredible. Experimental weapons the Velanthi had developed but never used. The technology was radical and dangerous. The weapons were called erasure cannons. They did not just destroy matter. They erased it from existence at a quantum level. Matter hit by these weapons did not explode or break apart. It simply ceased to exist, along with the space it had occupied. Won-shik brought the technology back to Haewon's team. They studied it carefully. The weapons were incredibly powerful, but the Velanthi notes included warnings. Using these weapons could damage the structure of space itself. Too much use might create permanent rifts in reality. Min Kyung faced an impossible choice. They could deploy weapons that might save humanity, but could also damage the universe itself. Or they could continue fighting with conventional weapons and slowly lose. She brought the decision to the collective council. The debate was intense. Some argued that damaging space was better than extinction. Others said they could not risk destroying the universe to save themselves. In the end, Dong-hyun made the call. We test them, one battle. We use the erasure cannons at Arcturus Station. If they work without causing catastrophic damage, we'll deploy them across the fleet. If they cause problems, we'll find another way. Arcturus Station was humanity's most heavily fortified defensive position outside of Earth. It protected a key junction in the jump gate network. Intelligence reports showed a massive harvester fleet gathering for an assault on the station. Dong Hyun committed 800 warships to the defense, nearly half of humanity's remaining military strength. Admiral Ji Young would lead them. The new erasure cannons were installed on 50 of the largest warships. As the human fleet gathered at Arcturus, everyone knew this battle would decide the war. If humanity won here, they had a chance. If they lost, the path to Earth would be open. Ji Young stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking at the stars. She thought about Jae-hoon and all the others who had died fighting. She thought about Earth, hidden away in its quarantine zone for so long. She thought about the Kellys and other young species that needed protection. Haewon sent her a final message before the battle. The weapons are ready. They'll work. But please, use them carefully. We don't know what damage they might cause. Ji Young replied simply, "We'll do what we must. For humanity. For everyone." The sensors detected the harvester fleet approaching. They came like a wave of flesh and metal, hundreds of ships moving in perfect coordination. They had learned from previous battles. They had adapted. They were ready. So was humanity. The Battle of Arcturus was about to begin. The Battle of Arcturus began with silence. 800 human warships faced the harvester fleet across empty space. For a moment, nothing moved. Then both fleets charged forward at impossible speeds. Admiral Ji Young gave the order calmly. "All ships, engage! Erasure cannon units, fire when ready." The first shots from the new weapons were strange. There was no explosion, no flash of light. Reality simply stopped where the beams struck. Harvester ships hit by the erasure cannons did not explode or burn. They ceased to exist. One moment they were there, the next moment there was nothing, not even debris. The effect was devastating. Dozens of harvester ships vanished in the opening minutes. The remaining ships tried to adapt, but there was nothing to adapt to. You cannot defend against something that erases you from existence. But physicist Haewon, watching from her lab, saw something terrifying on the sensors. Where the erasure cannons fired, space itself was damaged. Small rifts appeared like cracks in glass. They were spreading slowly, getting larger. She sent an emergency message to Ji Young. "Stop firing! The weapons are tearing space apart!" But the message was too late. The battle was in full rage. Ji Young saw the warning but made a quick decision. They could not stop now. If they stopped, the harvesters would overwhelm them. They had to finish this battle quickly and then deal with the consequences. "Concentrate fire," she ordered. "End this now." The human fleet focused all its weapons on the harvester command ships. The erasure cannons fired again and again. Harvester ships vanished. Space cracked and split. Reality itself seemed to scream. Finally, the harvester fleet broke. The surviving ships retreated, jumping away to unknown locations. Humanity had won. But the victory felt hollow as they looked at the damage. The space around Arcturus Station was filled with rifts. They glowed with strange light and pulled at nearby objects. Ships had to navigate carefully to avoid being torn apart. Min Kyung delivered her analysis to the collective council. Continued use of erasure cannons will eventually destroy this entire region of space. We cannot use these weapons again. We need another solution. But without the weapons, humanity could not stop the harvesters. The situation seemed hopeless. That is when Su Jin, the cyber warfare specialist, proposed something radical. "The harvesters are part biological, part technological," she explained. "I've been studying captured samples from destroyed ships. They use quantum entanglement to coordinate. Every harvester unit is connected to every other unit across vast distances. It's their greatest strength." "And?" Dong Hyun asked. It's also their greatest weakness. If we can create a virus that spreads through their network, we can infect their entire system at once. We can turn their coordination against them. The idea was brilliant, but came with a terrible problem. To deliver the virus, someone would need to interface directly with a Harvester command ship. The neural feedback would be massive, far more than any human brain could survive. Captain Jin Seo volunteered immediately. She was still commanding the Pathfinder, now upgraded with the latest technology. As Dae-hyun's daughter, she felt a responsibility to finish what her father had started by finding the Volanthi ship. Won Shik, the archaeologist, revealed he had found something in the Volanthi ruins that might help. The Volanthi had developed biological augmentation technology that could enhance a human nervous system. It was experimental and dangerous. The person receiving it might not survive with their mind intact. Jin Seo accepted the risk without hesitation. If there's a chance it works, we have to try. The augmentation procedure took 48 hours. Volanthi biosynthetic neural networks were grafted into Jin Seo's nervous system. The pain was beyond description. Several times her heart stopped and had to be restarted. Her brain activity showed patterns that terrified the medical team, but she survived. When she emerged from the procedure, she was changed. Her eyes seemed to see things others could not. She described her thoughts as faster than thought, processing information at quantum speeds. "I can do this," she said. Her voice was the same, but something deeper had changed. A strike force was assembled. Admiral Ji Young personally led the mission. Their target was a massive Harvester command ship, the largest one detected. It coordinated Harvester operations across dozens of star systems. The journey was dangerous. Half the strike force was destroyed fighting through Harvester defenses, but they created an opening. Jin Seo's ship, the Last Dawn, crashed directly into the command ship's organic hull. Her team fought through corridors of living metal and pulsing flesh. Harvester drones attacked constantly. Most of her crew died in the fighting, but they reached the central neural chamber. Jin Seo connected to the Harvester network. The moment of connection was overwhelming. She experienced the collective consciousness of billions of Harvester units. She felt their purpose, their drive, their ancient programming, and she understood. The Harvesters were not evil. They were a tool, created billions of years ago by a civilization that no longer existed. They were designed to prevent the galaxy from becoming unbalanced, to harvest advanced civilizations before those civilizations consumed everything. But they had become corrupted over time. They were ancient code running on biological hardware, operating long past their makers' deaths. They had forgotten their true purpose and now harvested everything indiscriminately. Jin Seo released Sujin's quantum virus into the network, but she did something unexpected. Instead of destroying the Harvesters, she rewrote their core programming. She gave them a new purpose: protect young life, become guardians instead of Harvesters. The change spread through the quantum network instantly. Across 100 light-years, Harvester ships stopped attacking. They began to transform, reconfiguring their bodies and purposes. But the strain was too much for Jin Seo. Even with augmentation, her biological brain could not handle rewriting a galaxy-spanning network. Her neural patterns began to break down. In her final moments, she sent a message to her father. "Dad, we found something amazing in the dark, and we made it beautiful. Tell everyone that humans are the ones who taught the monsters to dream." Her brain activity stopped. Jin Seo died. But something of her consciousness remained in the Harvester network, a ghost in the machine, a spark of humanity in an ancient system. The war ended not with destruction, but transformation. The Harvesters, now calling themselves the Shepherds, retreated to the edges of known space. They sent a message in every language. "We will watch. We will protect the young. We will remember the human who rewrote our purpose." 20 years passed again. The Terran Collective became the Terran Commonwealth. Humanity now shared space with 17 other species. Some they had protected during the war, others they discovered after. The 53 colonies had grown to 200 worlds. Humanity's population exceeded 100 billion. They had truly become an empire among the heavens. But it was not an empire of conquest. It was an empire of protection and cooperation. Old Dae-hyun stood at the memorial on Arcturus Station. He was ancient now, even by enhanced standards. The memorial bore his daughter's final words, and the names of 800 million humans who died in the war. Around the memorial were gardens. The Kellys and other young species tended plants from hundreds of different worlds. Children of different species played together under alien stars. Young Commander Sung-ho, Jin Seo's nephew, commanded the exploration vessel Jin Seo's Dream. Humanity continued to explore, but now they searched for young species to protect and guide. One day, Sung-ho received a strange signal from deep space. It was in ancient Velanthi code, hidden in a stellar nebula. When translated, it showed coordinates and a simple message. If you're reading this, you survived. Welcome to the garden. There is so much more to show you. Hyun-soo, now ancient and serving as the Commonwealth's chief science advisor, realized the truth. The Velanthi had not just hidden humanity. They had planted humanity like a seed in a garden. And now humanity had inherited that garden. The coordinates pointed toward the galactic core. Sensors detected thousands of worlds there, terraformed and maintained by the shepherds. Empty worlds waiting for life to emerge and grow. Seung-ho set course for the coordinates. He thought about his aunt Jin Seo and her sacrifice. He thought about all the humans who had fought and died. He thought about the future. Humanity's empire was not built on domination. It was built on protection, on the belief that life matters, that defending the vulnerable is worth any sacrifice, that even in the cold darkness of space, hope can bloom. Every ship, every station, every colony bore the Commonwealth's motto, "We are the gardeners now." As the Jin Seo's Dream jumped toward the galactic core, Seung-ho looked at his crew, humans and aliens working together, different species united by common purpose. The Velanthi had hidden humanity to save them. Humanity had fought to survive. Now they would do what the Velanthi had done, protect the next generation, shepherd the young, tend the garden. In the darkness between stars, the shepherds watched. They remembered the human who rewrote their purpose. They remembered Jin Seo's sacrifice, and they approved. Humanity had found a wrecked alien ship in the darkness. From that discovery, they built an empire among the heavens. Not an empire of conquest, but an empire of hope. The garden was vast, the work was endless, but humanity was ready. They had learned the most important lesson. Survival means nothing if you survive alone. True strength comes from protecting others. True empire comes from service, not domination. The future stretched before them, vast and unknown. But they would face it together, all of them, human and alien, the strong and the weak. The old and the young, they were the gardeners now, and the garden would grow.